And then we'll be back at the end of August, and we'll start with our next series in September. So basically, in the in this series of 8 Friday meetings, we're going to look at a lot of new technology. We're going to have some guest speakers. If there's people that you think would be interesting to talk in this series, let us know. We can apply for permission from the college to bring them in. And we hope, just like in the last semester, we can bring some interesting people that will help you career goals, professional talks, and other things. And we've talked to a bunch of people already who are interested in coming to Friday sessions. And there's a lot of new technology that we want to talk about as well. As far as what we're talking about today, so 3 weeks ago, there was a convention that they have every year called PyCon. PyCon is when they talk about the latest and greatest things in Python. And Anaconda, the people who build virtual environments for Python, came out with like an earth-shattering, just next level implementation of Python. So as you know, if you've been coding in Python, especially if you've been in one of my classes in coding in Replit, you'll notice that Python is like relatively heavy. If you download your code, you should end up with a file that's around like 18 megabytes, and that includes the virtual environment of Python, right? Now, you've probably heard the expression full stack or front-end development, and that's basically like the other side of it, building web pages and other ways of presenting your data after you figure things out on the back end in R and Python. So those languages are very good at dealing with very large-scale data, processing numbers, coming up with answers, looking at fancy charts, but then ultimately you need some other technology to push them out to the web. So if you took my class BTA 1016, you've probably used Flask and other technologies, and you've noticed that if you build really large visualizations or many visualizations on the same page like you did with the basketball one, it can take a really long time to load the page. It would take so long to load that for a regular person, they would just say, the website's not working, and they would leave, right? Now, most front-end web development is built using a technology called JavaScript, and that's a different technology stack that uses AngularJS, JavaScript, Node.js, or a bunch of other technologies that work together for front end only. They're not necessarily as powerful as Python because they can't change the system that they're running on. They can't write files, they can't change the directory, they can't do certain things that you can do in Python, but they do a pretty good job of being very small, very light, and displaying some amazing things on the desktop, on the website. So most of those languages work, and they talk to each other using JSON, something that we use in all of our classes, basically creating code that can talk to each other and move back and forth. After that very long introduction, let's get back to PyScript. What is it? How does it work? PyScript is this amazing new package, and basically, they take Python and they parse it down to the smallest version possible, and then using a content delivery network, you can plug in Python into a regular HTML web page. It's not running on a Python server. It's not running in an environment by itself. It's running inside an HTML web page, which doesn't need any infrastructure to make it work. Not only that, it's delivered by a CDN, or a content delivery network. And what that means is you go to the web page, just like if you go to a regular web page, it loads up the file, just like you'd load up a style sheet to make a template work. This is going to go to the CDN of PyScript, download the PyScript library, which is like a teeny tiny implementation of Python, and make it work in the smallest way possible on your website. And you can build some amazing things, like amazing. And we're going to take a look at some of them today, just using this implementation of PyScript. Now, I'll tell you, if you're part of our LinkedIn group, there's some issues. You've probably seen the poll that we put up there. I mean, the implications of what this can do is really mind-blowing. Like, I did a triple take when I saw this, because I'm like, wow, this is a game changer. It means that you could use Python, not just for backend, but you could actually use it for full stack development, including building really nice web pages in HTML super simply. And that's amazing. That's like really a huge fundamental shift. The catch is it's very slow. Hopefully that will get faster in the future. But just the idea of how this could work, it eliminates many other steps that you need to make web pages work, to make literally most things work. And you could do it all in Python without using packages like Flask or anything else. You could do it directly without a server. So let's take a look at how it works together. So this is the website of PyScript. And it basically lets you run HTML in your browser. And this is basically it. To make this work, we need to go to where it says install, and it says, just kidding, you don't have to install anything. We have to install the style sheet of PyScript. So let's go to Replit for a second. And we're going to go to Replit, and we're going to open up a regular HTML Replit like this. So this is not Python or anything else, regular HTML. We'll give it a go, and we're going to come up with a brand new blank web page, which should say Hello World on it. There we go. And what we're going to do is grab these two lines here, and this will load script.js from the internet. Of course, to make it a little bit faster, you can install those yourself in the local directory and call them locally. Instead, we're saying grab the style sheet from PyScript and then use PyScript, PyScript.js, because this is written in JavaScript. And that's it. We press run, and you'll see it now creates the Pyodine runtime here. And it's going to say hello world on this side. You'll notice it has a slightly different font now, but otherwise it does the exact same thing. So now it's installed. Okay, great. Now here's the cool part. We can go and grab this line that says PyScript. And as long as it says PyScript tag on either end, you could print Python commands inside. So we could say print now you can. We press stop, we press run. And it's going to say now you can, printing from Python. Make sense? Any questions, comments, thoughts, complaints? We're on the same page, right? So we have an HTML tag in the body section. Inside that HTML tag, we're printing out Python. And let's take a look at some of the demos, which are very impressive, and you get an idea of how this works all together. So we took a look at our hello world, right? Here we can say, here we can say, this is Python. And then this will basically run in Python and get forwarded to PyScript and then display on the website. Let's take a look at another example. This one's a little more complicated. Okay, so we'll take out this line, or maybe we'll even leave it. Here's another one. So you'll notice that we have PyScripts on the top and the bottom. And all of this is Python multi-line file. It says print, let's compute pi. We have a function called compute pi, and we pass in a number, pi equals 2. For I in range 1 to n, pi multiply equals 4 multiplied by I, exponent 2 divided by 4, etc., and it returns pi. We compute pi and we pass in this number 100,000, and it will say pi is approximately pi, and it will bring it back to 3 decimal places, print it out, and then put that in the PyScript. So let's take a look at what happens. So it says, this is Python, let's compute pi. Pi is approximately 3.142. So it's bringing that back, it's computing pi with this number, it's bringing it back, and it's using this function to make it work. You notice that it does take a second to load the web page, but we're able to use straight Python inside of here, inside of PyScript. Let's take a look at another one. Now, one of the really cool things that you can do, let's change this. Okay, so here we're using Bootstrap for the design, and we're using PyScript like we did before. Okay, so, all right, looks good. Okay, so let me grab the PyScript part in the body. And you'll notice that this one is a little bit different because this combines a little bit of HTML with a little bit of Python. So it says, this is this is HTML. It says today is today. And it says Py alert primary, and then we start PyScript. Now what happens is this label that it says ID equals today will be filled in with the result of this code. So it says import datetime as DT. So we're importing a package right in HTML. PyScript.write today dt.date.today strafe time, and it puts in the year. And we talk about this in our Python class, how to use date objects. We'll get rid of the rest. And it says today is Friday, May 13th, 2022. How does it find this information? Like, how is it plugging this in? Normally, HTML can't plug in dynamic data. The way that it works is that it's running this script in Python. Python is using this package datetime to find it, and then it's displaying the information on top and plugging it into this label up here, right, where it says ID equals label. So the idea is that anything you could make work in Python, you can create things here. I'll show you another example. This one is a package that you've used a lot with NumPy. Let's take a look. So we have our style sheet, we have PyScript, and we say py environment, NumPy, and matplotlib, which means it's going to pre-install these two packages before anything else runs. Just like you would import in Python, it's doing the same thing, but it's installing these before it loads the page. So it's going to take a little bit longer, obviously. Then it says body, that's HTML. H1, let's plot some random numbers as a heading. Then it's going to say ID plot. This is where it's going to put this division of the plot. It has to generate the plot, though, which is happening over here. So when you say output equals plot, it's sending this PyScript into this ID plot. That's where it shows the chart. It's going to say import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT, import numpy as NP, grab two random numbers, create a subplot, scatter plot, and then create the figure. It basically outputs into this div, and then you see the image happening below. Let's give it a run. So it says, let's plot some random numbers. We'll think about it for a second. And we get a web page with a chart built into it. And I'll send you this link. You can check it out. It might take a second to run, but here you see that we plot a whole bunch of random points using PyPlot right inside of an HTML page. Again, it installed two packages, and we did not have to do anything else. It just did it automatically. So that is very impressive. There's a few other ways that we could use this too, but the idea is that we can grab any package that we've already used and plug it into the web. The implications of this are huge, because it means that if it was a little faster and you could speed it up a little bit, you could basically take any Python package that does all sorts of different things and just export it into HTML in one step, not in multiple steps. Like, for example, going through Flask, installing Python, having modules. It's quite common that you have a server that doesn't support Python, but does support HTML. Now, we could eliminate that problem where you could use R or Python on any server as long as it gives you a web page. Imagine for a second you're at your company and your boss asks you to build a dashboard of KPIs, internal dashboard of KPIs. Normally that would take a while because you'd have to use a template, go to Flask or Django, build a whole series of templates that output the thing to the web, build a whole bunch of functions. But here it's literally one click. You just access that data, which you can do in SQL, or you can do using JavaScript, or you could use using a local JSON source or an API, and export it into a chart, into a dashboard with one click, and it creates an internal HTML page. So it's really, really fast starting with the HTML side. And I think that it has really huge implications for developing internal dashboards. So I highly recommend playing around with this. And I'll show you some of the cool things that it can do. Let me just grab some examples. Okay, so hold on. Let's try this. So this is the same exact thing. This this is the cool thing about this, is that this has built into it the ability to control the screen by moving your hands. I don't have it enabled because of the video though, because it didn't start. But the idea is that it uses a OpenCV Python package to make it work. You can play the game, so it says use this to move, down to crouch, X to jump, and you could literally play the entire Super Mario right from HTML And again, it's loading this from HTML using Python, right? The cool part is the addition of OpenCV, but you could do some really amazing things that you would never be able to do otherwise in Python. This is an example of Mario. If you download the main pack, you can see it. Let's look at some other ones. Yeah, me too, Idris. Okay, let's see if we can get this one to work. Okay, so this one does k-means clustering, but I think it needs a whole bunch of other data to work. But anyways, I recommend look through it, take a look at some of the other examples that are in here. You could build some really, really cool things very quickly. And in just a few minutes, be able to build out some really fancy that's not working, but that's the idea. PyScript, highly recommend it. Any questions, comments, or thoughts?
Yeah, I have a question. Would you
Yeah.
say this is a good way to make our portfolio like interactive? So if it's this, we can input maybe our Python work, assuming I want to show something I did in Python, but it was an interactive graph or Power BI stuff or something. Can I actually create a code on that using this?
You could. It's a good question. In my portfolio, I added a replet directly into it. I embedded a replet because I thought it would be cooler if you could play a game or whatever inside of my website rather than. But you're right. I mean, I could do the same thing with PyScript. It would render as a web page, though. It depends what you're trying to do. If you
Also,
want to display,
you didn't teach us this part.
what do you mean teach you this part? It's
This is
called Google.
very interesting.
Allow me to Google it for you because apparently that's what we do here. Embed replet in HTML. Oh, look at that. Embedding replets. Here's the link for you. You're welcome. Just read the page and embed it. It's not that complicated. I don't know who it was. I think it was Vin, but it could have been somebody else. Somebody made a final project that had like 40 embedded replets on one page. Was that you? Somebody else? No, not you. I had this one. I turned it on. It's one web page that had 40 replets inside of it. It was very impressive. I don't recommend doing that. It doesn't really make sense, but you can easily embed your replets, all the replets you've done up until now, as an iframe. Take the iframe and plug it into any website that you want. It's easy to do. There's a few different versions. One of them includes code. One of them doesn't include code. Just follow the page. It will explain to you how to do it. Good question.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing your portfolio. Speaking of, I think the ongoing thing that we usually do, since we have a lot of new people, is perhaps you can throw your LinkedIn into the chat, and that way we can all connect to each other. And I'll send you the link for the group that we have as well. The group is here, and I've invited everybody who's ever graduated from the program, including all of you. I highly recommend connecting to this group. I put stuff in there that I think would be useful for you, but I also think that it's a great way to connect with people who are alumni of the program and potentially in the position to hire data analysts for their departments. Kind of makes sense to network with people who are in the field. So if you haven't already connected with people in the program, connect with us and join the group. It's a very good idea to network, connect with people, etc. Right? So a few things about LinkedIn and resumes. I think that's useful because a lot of people are eventually graduating. We have half an hour. It's a great subject to talk about. It's very important to apply for the job that you're interested in getting, not your current station in life. So for example, if Fatima made her entire LinkedIn profile about anatomy, it'd be very difficult for her to get a job as a data analyst because People need to find you based on the keywords that are in your profile. Okay, so this morning I got a message from a recruiter on LinkedIn, and let me just find it. And the guy says, hi there, my name is Rick. I hope you're doing great. I'm a recruiter for this company. We're an artificial intelligence company that develops automation software. We want to capitalize on the move from 5G and the edge. I saw your profile and I thought you'd be interested in the senior Python developer position. You have to have 6 years of backend web development in Flask and develop in Fast API. Be familiar with microservices architecture and database experience in SQL. We have some amazing 5G technology things. If you're interested, please let me know. Great. How did they find me? Like, why is this person contacting me as opposed to somebody else? It's because of having the right words in your profile, and it starts from a computer, from a search that the guy went through millions of people to find me, right? And if you think about his letter, like what he put in there, right? And I'll show you something interesting. 1 second. Okay, so the email that the guy sent me, the recruiter, this is what it looks like if you look at it as a word cloud, right? You kind of get the idea right away that what is this guy looking for? It's basically Python with a bunch of other stuff, but mainly Python, some fast API, etc. It's really useful to do this because if you do this with your profile, your portfolio, or if you do this with a job description, a job ad, it will kind of narrow it down to explain to you, what am I looking at? Like, what's the point of this job? What am I going for, right? Very, very important. It will help you identify if you have the right keywords in your profile or not. And that's half the battle, right? Being able to have the right words in order to get yourself noticed. Really, really critical. Everybody, including me, everybody has some kind of origin backstory before they started doing this, right? Like nobody was born a data analyst. The problem with that is that the words that are in your profile might still reflect whatever you did last. I see this all the time. Students have a profile that says like hardware engineer, anatomy person. I don't know what anatomy person's called, an anatomist. And it's just your top skills along with your job experience and the things that you're talking about in your profile are going for the wrong job. The best way to do that is to take your entire CV, your whole resume, drop it into a word cloud and look what comes up. If it says anatomy 45 times, it's obviously not going to match the job. It says Python and SQL, backend development of Flask. Those things are in my profile. That's how they found me, right? That's why they're not talking to somebody else, because I have the right words that were specifically oriented towards that job description. So you really need to think about, forget about people. People are the most difficult ones to talk to, because you have to have some way to get them interested in you first before you can talk to them, right? Really, the first step is passing an ATS system. Whether you're sending in your resume or whether they're finding you on LinkedIn, either way, you need to have the right keywords so they identify that you're the right person for the job. Then you can negotiate, talk with them, explain them your backstory, etc. That's why, recently Cambrian started applying for degrees. They sent me a form that says the government wants to know everything you've ever done, basically in your entire life that's related to academia. Fill out this massive form. It turned out my resume was 19 pages long. And that's because there's 5 people that sent in their resumes, and some government person is going to read those 100 pages and say, okay, you're cool. Now, think about the same recruiter, instead of reading 5 CVs, has to read 100 CVs an hour. So basically, they're giving your CV a 45-second look at the most, right? And that's after a computer identified that you're probably the right person for the job. And if you think of huge companies like Tesla or Twitter or whatever, they have tens of thousands of employees and a limited number of recruiters. So the recruiter wants to know that you're for sure the right person for the job by the time they even look at your resume to begin with, among 100 other people who are for sure the right people for the job, and then they pick you. They interview you, they find you if you're the best one. But it's a super time-intensive process. And that's why this filtering layer, all these different pieces, are very, very difficult to get through. Now, it's interesting, if you talk to people in tech, they'll tell you that there's a negative unemployment rate. That means that, like, if you're in tech, everybody has a job. There's tons of open jobs in analytics. There's 15,000 jobs that are available. And yet students have a lot of difficulty sometimes getting interviews, getting jobs, etc. It all comes down to connecting in the right way, being able to show the right profile, getting in a room and talking to somebody. If I can talk to you, I can convince you to hire me, that I'm the right person for the job, that I have all the right skills. If you won't even talk to me, that's really hard to do. So that's why we recommend the first starting place, the best place to start this whole process is, instead of sending out hundreds of resumes into the ether, it's a much better idea to contact people, to network, to ask people for, low barrier guidance, right? To say to somebody, hi, like, I'm interested in getting some mentorship. Would you mind talking to me for 15 minutes? Here's my story, right? If somebody cares about you enough to actually talk to you for 10 minutes and you are able to contribute something useful to their lives, then that's a really good way for them to pay it forward, right? To keep on, you know. So I think it's important to think about, who is that person? There's a few places where you already have good credit, good karma built up that you can talk to people. For example, the alumni network. The alumni network is people who have graduated from Cambrian or from your university that you graduated from last. Talk to those people. Find somebody who's now in a position of authority, and don't ask them for a job because they'll just say no. Ask them instead to help you, tell you what's out there, what's going on in the industry, who's hiring, what things should you be aware of, what courses should you take. Even better, help them with some problem that they have. Everybody has a problem. If you could identify it, help them move it forward. Now, think about it from a year from now. Jason gets approached all the time to write reference letters for people. He often gets approached from people to write long reference letters from black boxes who he's never met before and knows nothing about. Fatima, however, approaches him and says, hi, Jason, remember me? I'm the anatomy girl. Remember? The one who studied anatomy? And Jason's like, yes, anatomy. Yes, I would be happy to write you a reference letter. I can't speak for Jason, but that's what I would do. So, and mind you, I know nothing about anatomy. The point is that you're able to build affinity with people so that they want to do favors for you because they know you, because they actually care about what happens to you, right? It's very difficult to build that kind of connection with people in industry if you don't start somewhere. So yes, sending out resumes is a good idea. It has a 1% success rate. Literally, you send out 100 resumes, 1% may talk to you. Of those 1% of those people might hire you or something like that. It's difficult. That's why it's a good idea to leverage that strategy with others. Make contacts, talk to people in industry. We've had multiple events, not joking, like multiple events. I got, the best one is 2 years ago. They were doing the first online job fair, and they sent me an email from the Career Center, and they're like, hi, bring your class to this event. And I said, okay. I showed up at the event, and it was me and the CEO of this company and no students. He's like, I don't understand. Where's the students? I literally came here to hire somebody, and there's nobody here. So I wrote the students an email and I said, hello, get here immediately. This thing is going on. A bunch of students showed up. He hired one of them. It seems like sorry, I'm going for a Jason quote, but I can't remember exactly how it goes. Something about Wayne Gretzky.
Oh, yeah. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's it.
Which actually everyone probably knows now more from The Office, if you watch the TV show The Office. But
so it's basically either The Office or Wayne Gretzky. But the bottom line is, it's important to start multiple tracks at the same time. Make sure your resume and cover letter are good. Make sure your LinkedIn is good, but also network, right? I sent out a bunch of links earlier this week for like lunchclub.ai and other resources. Talk to people locally. That's a huge, huge help as well. And there's tons of people around you that you could easily talk to that would tell you about what's going on and help you leverage the connections to find out whatever the next thing is, what's going on in industry, who is there to talk to, etc. So throughout the semester, I think we're going to do more cover letter and resume writing. We'll take a look at some examples. Really, really critical. You have access to Grammarly. Use it. Make sure that stuff is properly capitalized. Make sure it reads well. It doesn't have spelling mistakes, punctuation mistakes, etc. And listen, I'm the first one to say this because whenever I write a letter for somebody, it always has mistakes in it. That's normal. You write, you revise over and over again. My PhD, I think, had like 270 revisions. You need to keep on working on it to make sure that it's okay, right? So I think it's an iterative process. Keep on applying for jobs, find mentorship, and whatever stage you're at in your studies, do it now. Find people who can help you, right? And I think that there's a lot of people with a lot of expertise that are happy to share their knowledge if you just ask them, right? And it's like this literally with everything. If you're in my capstone course, we've talked about key informants, finding who are the people who want to help you, who are out there, who are very excited to talk about their subject with you. You need to identify that person, right? And I'll give you one more example. It has to do with Fatima, obviously. So Fatima and Leisha were the best technology winners in the, what was it called? Student Innovation Contest. That's right, best technology of the whole college. It's amazing. And they met with me and they asked me something about marketing, which I don't really know a lot about. And I said, I know the perfect person. He's a marketing professor. Happy to talk to you. Not only that, that's this guy's whole thing. Talk to him. And then a whole bunch of good things came out of that, right? And that's like that with everything. There's somebody out there, no matter what it is, no matter how weird the topic is that you have to research, there's some key informant who's very excited to talk to you about something. Find that person. They're going to tell you everything that they know. Students worked on a capstone project a couple of years ago, which would have taken tens of thousands of hours of phone calls, and instead found one person who gave them a spreadsheet with all the stuff already collected. Because that person's out there trying to push out their information. They just haven't connected with you yet. That's why I'm saying it's very difficult to break into a company using a cold call, sending out a cold resume. You know, they might already have somebody in mind, but through networking, knowing somebody, being connected to the right people, having somebody mention you when you're applying to the company, that makes all the difference, right? And again, I think you really have to think about, first of all, who are you applying against? You have no idea, and there could be really fantastic people you're applying against. You can't control that. But also, who are you applying to? Usually it's not a hiring manager. Usually it's the HR people who may not understand your job or what you can do or what all those fancy words are. That's why it's important to make sure that your profile makes sense. And ideally, best case scenario, people are reaching out to you to offer you jobs. To do that, you have to have a really good LinkedIn, you have to have a solid resume, and you have to have all those pieces set up so that people can find you. Somebody found me for Python and Flask because I had the right words on my profile. I want them to find you for the things that you can do, which means that for your Cambrian experience, as well as your university experience, make sure that you write text that has the right keywords in it. So if I search or I do a word cloud of your profile, I'm going to be able to identify what you can do. Again, if I did that with your top 50 skills and the jobs that you applied for and the stuff that you wrote about yourself and so on, and it came up with something totally not matching the job that you're looking for, you need to fix your LinkedIn to make sure it aligns better, that the resume looks better. Again, it's being scanned by a computer. So make sure that if it's scanned by a computer, it aligns with what you're trying to apply for. I would make word clouds of your profile, your resume, and potential jobs, and just look at them. Say, like, does this make sense? Do these things match? If they don't, revise your approach and find a better way to do it. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Certainly one question.
Yeah.
Speaking for those who don't have any experience in IT or data jobs, so yes. How do we formulate our resumes to highlight, how do I say it? So I don't have any experience in data, right? But so
I'm glad you asked. So first of all, the difference between doing this job and working at Walmart or McDonald's or something is that you're getting hired for a job where you're supposed to be an authority telling people what to do to make better decisions, saving money, making money. So you need to come into it as an authority. If you go into the interview and you say, look, I don't know anything about anything, you're an expert. You just spent a year making 600 homeworks. Show them that. Talk to them about the things that you can do, the things that you can figure out for them, all the different things that you know. You probably have millions of words by now that you could talk to them about all the different things that you can do. That's what you should lead with, first of all. Second of all, there's a gap of 15,000 jobs right now because there aren't enough people to fill them. You could do most of those jobs. Now, I am highly confident that if somebody came along and said, we need somebody to be a data analyst, programmer, database, etc., Daniel's your guy. Something about cars, even better. The problem is that companies don't know you and you don't know the companies. So if you come with the wrong introduction, it's not going to work. Now, there is a resume template, and I'm going to send you a bunch of them that I highly recommend using because it will help you parse down what you can do into one page. And again, the one page is like your business card. It's just getting in the door, somebody to recognize you because it has the right keywords. If you don't have the right keywords, they're not going to even talk to you for an interview. Once you get into the interview, you can persuade them and talk to them and explain to them why you can do an amazing job and you can help them. So it doesn't have anything to do with your job experience. You have a year of experience doing this. I'm pretty positive. I mean, I know you. I think that you can do a good job.
But should I write that? I can't write that in work experience, right? Because that
why would you
formal experience.
Look at the templates I just sent you. Pick one of the 5 templates, fill it out with the content that you have in your profile, right? talk about the things that you can do. And most importantly, this is really key. A lot of people write things like Python or PySQL, R, etc. I don't know what any of those words mean. You really need to put in R statistics using RStudio, SQL databases, Power BI dashboards, Python programming, packages that I've used, etc. Because not only are those longer form ones the keywords that LinkedIn uses to identify your profile, but recruiters and HR who don't know exactly what they need are going to be keyed in by those words because they know, oh, this guy knows programming and databases. Perfect. That's who we're looking for, right? And again, you're just trying to get your CV found amongst millions of profiles and CVs that are out there, right? That's what it really comes down to. Of all the people here, Daniel, you're the most likely to succeed. So basically,
thanks for the vote of confidence. Appreciate
vote of confidence accomplished. And I told you, anything to do with cars, you're the guy.
I don't have any though, but yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet. Let's hope I get some in the future.
Many, I'm hoping. Based on what happened in class, I'm guessing at least like a dozen Lamborghinis or something. It's hard to say.
But I can't afford the gas for that, I might afford the Lamborghini, but the gas is a whole other issue.
The gas is the whole other issue. That's the problem. Really. I'm walking now, even though I have a car. There's no gas in it. So listen, I think that you have to start somewhere, right? And it's easy to convince somebody in person when you're talking to them that you're the right person for the job. Honestly, I think so. It's difficult to get that interview in the first place. And that's the crazy thing. There's 15,000 open jobs. Why are people not pursuing you? Simply because they don't know you exist. If they knew that you existed and you had the right skills, then you'd start getting job offers, just like I got one this morning, right? Because they found me through LinkedIn by typing in the right keywords. They'll find you the same way. I highly recommend if you go to my profile and take a look at this course. It's called Getting a Job on LinkedIn. And the fascinating thing about the course is that it shows you the LinkedIn search from the other side, like how a recruiter finds you, right? So for example, I'm a recruiter. I'm looking to find somebody for a job in SQL, right? So I type in Canada, I type in SQL, and the first one that comes up is Fatima's profile, and the first thing that it says on her subtitle is Fatima Williams, anatomy student. I'm like, that's clearly not what I'm looking for, and I cancel that person, and I go to the next person that says Daniel, SQL database expert / Python programmer / front-end developer. I'm like, sweet, that's the guy for me, right? And then again, it all comes down to filtering. So every time they add another filter, it eliminates another million people. You really need to think about like, how am I presenting myself the best way in order to get found, right? Not writing about your school, and again, I don't think so. It's adding keywords is part of it, and I think that it's not just keywords. It's thinking about what did you do for the past year? Like, what have you done at Cambrian? Taking that top list of keywords and putting them together into a paragraph. It contains the right words. It helps them find you. And there's a tool in LinkedIn where you could find this. I'll show it to you. You go into LinkedIn. You click on where it says jobs, and then you click on where it says resume builder, and then press create from profile. It will create a resume from your profile, and it will ask you what job title you're looking for. We'll do data analyst. And I'll press apply, and it says, okay, with data analyst, these are the words they usually have in their profiles. These are the words that are missing from your profile that should be in your profile. So I'm like, okay, I know that I have to add our programming language, leadership, teamwork back in. And you'll notice, by the way, it says Python programming language like this. This is how it recognizes Python in your profile. If you don't have it saying explicitly Python programming language, LinkedIn might not consider it. It might think that you're a snake charmer, which is a whole different job, right? So it's really important to have the right words, artificial intelligence, AI, and this will help you get found easier, right? So for example, in my profile, I wrote IoT. I'm not really crazy about IoT as a thing. That's not really, I teach courses in IoT, but it's not like my main thing. That's why I didn't write Internet of Things bracket IoT, because I was trying to, whatever. But basically, and I have to redo this to make it better, but basically take the keywords that are in here, and it has different things like social media analytics, Cambrian College, crime and business analytics, programming, etc. Right? And then inside of each experience that I have, I talk about what I did with those different pieces. By the way, if you look over here where it says Flask and Python, that's how the person found me for this job in Flask and Python. Right? Now, once you go and you add these things and it makes your profile better and better, go back and take a look at another job. For example, we can say create from profile. And this time we'll look for database specialist or database developer. We'll press apply. And it tells me, okay, we got SQL, we got databases, software development, data analysis, warehousing. You're missing HTML, Java, leadership, and teamwork. Things that I know. Those should be in my profile. I should have the word leadership, teamwork, HTML, and Java in there. But I don't, because that's not what I was focusing on. So it helps you refine your approach to make sure that you match with the most jobs. Also down below, let's go back to the main page for a second. If you go down to the bottom and you take a look at this section where it has keywords, where is it? Projects, honors, yeah. Where did I put it? Hold on. Here. So there's two things that I recommend. First of all, do the skill quizzes. There's a whole bunch of different skill quizzes, and you could get a button on next to your profile that says that you're good at a particular topic. Like for example, I did one for Python. Where is it? Here, and I got into like the top 3% of people who took a test for Python, which is great. And that means that people notice you. They see the skill assessment badge. I also passed the one for Excel. I did not pass the one for R. So if you're interested in, people finding you, they sometimes have it turned on that they'll look for you specifically by Python to be able to find you. So highly recommend it. They can be really hard though. I failed the one for Word, for example. Right? I failed the one for Word because it asked me a whole bunch of stuff in Word that's like, how do you like highlight a sheet that's like printing in this orientation and whatever, and you have like 4 seconds to answer. I don't know the stuff like that in Word because I just do it by memory. I don't know like explicitly how it's called. Unlike in Python where I do know how to do things explicitly. So maybe you have to like practice a little bit before you do one of these tests, especially if it's in an area that you don't know. For example, in JSON, I failed JSON one. And the reason why I failed JSON is because it asks you JSON in JavaScript, which is complicated, not JSON as JSON, which obviously would be easy to pass. That's why I'm saying you really have to think about it strategically. The most important thing that I see often on people's profiles, you'll notice that my top 3 things are teaching, research, and data analytics, which is great for my job as a professor. As a data analyst, those are not the right things to be your top skills. Now, people rated me for 24, ratings for teaching. They think I'm good at it. Research also. But Daniel, I know that it's wrong. I understand. It's okay, man. I read your course feedback. I know you think I'm terrible. Don't worry.
No, I was gonna say I would also give you one more endorsement for teaching if I could.
Daniel thinks I'm okay. All right, so listen, here's the thing. That if you look at these things down below, I took a degree in political science. It says politics, 7 people upvoted me. Is that relevant to any job that I'd ever take? No, it's like Fatima with anatomy. It's nice to have, but it has nothing to do with the job that you want. Which is why I'm saying that if you look at the ones that you actually want for that job, make sure your top 3 skills are data analysis, Excel, Python, I don't know, something that's going to actually get you to the job that you want to get. Otherwise, somebody's going to look at your profile and say, okay, 7 people like this guy for politics and 29 for research. Is this somebody that we want to hire as a junior developer position for whatever? No, they're overqualified. Right? So you really need to think about, does your top skills align with the job that you're trying to get? And what order are they in? Also, if you've been like, Good News or Sharon, and you've been completing 1 million courses on Data Camp like Jason's about to, add them to your LinkedIn, right? Add them to your LinkedIn so people see that you could actually do what you want to do. Many, many students have gotten jobs based on their Data Camp certificates. So if you've been completing courses but not updating it on LinkedIn, add them on LinkedIn, right? It shows people that you know how to do certain things. I'm probably done half of 50 courses by now, and I've completed 40 other ones. Finish them, add them. That's my takeaway for today. Karen, what do you say?
Sydney, can you just repeat that keyword which you told us earlier about how to search the job?
So
the keywords which the company will be going to look for the jobs.
Oh, okay. So if you go into your profile, and this has to do with these keywords as well. If you go up to the top and you click on jobs, and then you click on resume builder, then click on create from profile, and then type in the kind of job you want. So I'm going to type in data analyst. And then on the side, it will show you which words it found that match data analyst, which words you're lacking and you should add. Right? So that's my recommendation as far as that goes.
Okay.
Another really important thing you can do, and this came up this week a couple times, click on where it says jobs and click on where it says interview prep. and then click on categories and change it to business analyst. And read the questions. They have a whole bunch of questions, and then they have some sample answers that they tell you how to do it. For example, use the STAR method, situation, task, action, result. Basically, trying to contain your answer into this box. This is a whole bunch of different questions that they might ask you. It's important to understand how would you answer them. These are usually behavioral questions. They're very, very general, right? This one is like, tell me a time that you whatever. And it breaks down the program and the problem and explains to you what's the best way to answer that question. In this one, there's 23 of them. They also have a general category that has just like some general common questions that you can go through. Tell me about yourself. What's your biggest strength? Why should we hire you? Why do you go from there, etc. Personally, I'm in my head a lot. I often get, like I'm thinking of a lot of things, which usually ends up terribly to express ideas very quickly and clearly, especially when I'm in an interview. I'm nervous. I went to an interview at Cambrian. They didn't hire me. And they said, so tell me, why do you think you're the best person for the job? And I said, I'm definitely not the best person for the job. You should hire somebody else. And you know what? They did. They did not hire me. So the next time I went back, I said, I'm going to be more confident. And I'm applying because I am the best person for that job. Hire me. And they did. The point is that when you go into it, it's very difficult to separate yourself from the situation so you could stay calm about it and figure out what you're supposed to say. Honestly, the reason why I like the LinkedIn course is they show you videos of other people interviewing. And they show you simulations of a junior person, of a middle manager, and the kinds of things they would say in an interview. And when I saw them talking, I'm like, that's exactly me. Like, I totally understand it. And if you could see it from the outside, or you could practice interviewing with somebody else, it makes you so much more prepared. Listen, before I did my PhD comprehensive exam and my defense, which was like the biggest exam of my life, I was very worried about it. I ran through it with Jason. He gave me feedback. I was able to say, like, if this is good or not good, what to say, what not to say. And that gave me a lot more confidence when I went through it for real afterwards, which is why I highly recommend meet people on Lunch Club. You don't care if they hire you or not. Meet people from the alumni network. Go to job interviews for jobs you don't want. Practice. And at that point, when it's really on the line and there's a job you really do want and you're trying to make the best impression, you'll be a lot less anxious about it. And it'll be a lot easier for you to connect with the person who's interviewing you and say the right things, right? So I think that's really the challenge. I am on the committee. I'm on a committee that interviews people for jobs, and quite often the person could say the right things, they just don't for whatever reason. So you really want to practice, review some answers, think about potential pathways of how you could answer, so you're a lot better prepared when you get into that situation. Go through the resources. They have a ton of tools. There's 60 questions here, and they should really help you. I would also recommend, and this is just a practical suggestion, if you Google Python interview questions or ARP interview questions, they'll give you the top 100 list. You should know everything on the list. They're simple things that you should know about, you should be able to talk about, and you should be able to explain. And those questions are fundamental and will come up. The top 100 questions in SQL, top 100 questions in Python or R. And they're things like, what is a function? How does it work? Right? Like, what's a variable? What does it do? Stuff like that, not complicated. What's an iterator? And the reason why it's so important to know this is because that's like the common language that you should speak that everybody knows. Anyway, we have 2 minutes left. Do you have any questions, comments, thoughts to this long-winded rant about jobs? I really hope that it does help, though. And I think the bottom takeaway here is it's an iterative process. Go through it, refine your profile, resume, cover letter, fix it, go through it again, fix it, go through it again. Final notes. If you are in first semester, if you just started in May, or if you started in March, please sign up for tutoring, sign up to be a tutor. Either way is good. There's a lot of people here who could totally help you. Add the people who put their contacts in LinkedIn. The best way to find yourself, not just now, but later on, in a few years from now, is by being connected to people who are in your field. Those are these people, So I don't know if it's going to pay off immediate dividends today or tomorrow, but knowing people like Daniel is going to get me a fancy job at a car dealership in downtown Toronto. One day, driving Lamborghinis. It's going to be amazing. And I don't even know how to drive stick really well. So I'm probably going to burn out a few transmissions on the way, but he's cool because he's Daniel. My point is, make these connections now. These are the people in your class. They have an obvious affinity with you. And then years from now, they could hire you or send you where to get a job, or you could hire them. It just makes sense, right? Take advantage of the people that are in the room. Questions, comments, thoughts? Well, it was amazing to see all of you. I hope you play around with PyScript. I highly recommend checking it out. And I hope you have an amazing weekend.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.